It is a mic. Mic is on. Thank you, Logan.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Here.
Commissioner Banks,
Here.
Commissioner Hassler, and Commissioner Schwerin.
We expect Commissioner Hassler to be here shortly. As we get started, may we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic, which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you all. Happy July. Everybody enjoying the summer? Everybody getting some time off? Nobody even said anything. Kind of standing there stiffly. Is everybody enjoying the summer? All right. Are you getting some time off to refresh and recuperate, regenerate, and get some downtime? At least one person is. Thank you. Hopefully the rest of you will too. And those of you who are triskaidekaphobics, we'll just go for you all day today on the 13th. So thank you very much for that. Looking forward, we hope everybody is well at this time of the summer. Particularly, we're going to be watching intently as some of you walk up to the podium to see whether you're holding your hamstring or not. After a few games of softball, we're hearing some pretty significant hamstring injuries out there. So we will be watching closely so that we can think about that. All right. With that, I think we will jump in. Anything else on the open conversation? Anything else to open our conversation with? All right, Chief, I think we have a couple of swearing ins, first and foremost, and some life-saving awards to deliver. Turner, is it YL? Is that how you pronounce your first name? Very good. Thank you for what you're about to do. So if you would raise your hand, repeat after me. I, YL Turner, do solemnly swear that I'm a citizen of the United States, that I will support the Constitution, the laws of the United States, state of Missouri, and the charter and ordinances of St. Louis County, that I will faithfully adhere to the regulations provided in the rules and procedures for deputization as adopted by St. Louis County, and that I will faithfully demean myself as a deputized officer of the St. Louis County Police. So help me God. Very well done. Now, before you step away, hold on. I'll read you one more thing. My apologies. I want to make sure that you understand the full realm of the role. So as a deputized officer of St. Louis County, you are restricted to the protection of persons and property at Lambert St. Louis International Airport. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, County family.
Well, we're recruiting. But
Nice, Chief. Nice.
Have a life-saving award.
Members of the board. On June 15th of 2021, Miss Melissa Cope was returning home from attending her 8-hour professional staff in service. In that in service, we always have a block of CPR. She turned onto a residential street and found a young male lying in the roadway. Female standing over him. She pulled over, engaged the female, figured out that he had overdosed, probably on fentanyl. With the help of another bystander, they got him out of the roadway into the shade. Melissa did chest compressions until West County EMS arrived, when she left the scene and awake and not talking. The female thought he hadn't breathed. 30 seconds to a minute. The next day, I got a nice email from the West County Fire Chief, Melissa, for her actions while on duty and for saving this young man.
Take a picture. Okay. One. And family here?
My county family. I always have my county, yes.
Like you. Congratulations. All right.
These are all mornings.
This time, have three promotions to make. All these promotions are to be from our staff. We got this first one up is Frankie. She's being promoted from the these record rooms.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on promotion.
On leadership. So great.
Any family, friends here? Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Victoria Evans. The record run to record coordinator.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's an important job.
Yeah, it is.
Congratulations.
Well, we got it. Thank you.
Good hands, aren't we?
Victoria, you got any family here?
No, I don't.
Not even your work family?
All right.
And next we have Sarah Kennedy, Public Safety Dispatcher, promoting to Public Safety Dispatcher 2.
Congratulations. Thank you for taking on this responsibility. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about you, any family? Workmates?
Extended break.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's all I have for now. That is the budget.
That'd be great. Before you do, Charlie, can you reach out to somebody that can turn the temp down a little bit in?
Yes.
Hi.
We done.
That's all we have.
It's all the way down. It's all the way down, sir.
Chief, we can interrupt. For those of you who are here to support someone who was just promoted, you're welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave. We're about to get into the nuts and bolts of a meeting, so it's up to you. But thank you for being here for their support.
It'll be pretty boring.
I didn't say that. Come and see, did you say that? I didn't say
It was implied,
I did.
and it's kind of cold here, so.
I did not. I have to take my coat off.
I don't need that today.
This room is always warm.
That right? This one's always on.
We won't say anything about legal and lawyers and hot air though. We won't make that joke.
Oh.
She did. She's got her head down, not paying attention. To her credit, she didn't say it.
So tired. Better what time is it? It just
Goes
one
down.
point to shut down. So I'm doing the best I can.
You didn't miss anything.
Thank you. She was the best
Well,
part.
you know what, the guy who was security guy for the airport. Paris.
Oh, you're kidding.
You got a parking space.
Who was that? Yes, sir.
Get into this nuts and bolts.
I don't know.
And there are some up first.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm
I was asked to talk to you about the current budget and you know, what's hit, how we're doing on that, and also the budget submission for 2023. So, we're halfway through the year, so we've got some good numbers on where we stand on this current 2022 budget. And at this time, you know, our budget for this year was 100 and revised is 167 million, and we have 80 million. So we have spent 52.2%. Included in that, we have a salary surplus of $5.7 million. That's clearly driven by all the vacancies. So that results in some savings, but also then our overtime tends to go up. So the overtime shortage is at 2.7 million. The other large shortage is the salary vacation payoff at terminations and retirements. We pay them half their sick time and their vacation leave. We don't budget a lot for that because we don't really ever know the amount, and so it is short by about $1 million. So the net, well, the other thing is the fuel. And we all know the fuel prices have gone up astronomically, and the county has moved funds into all departments' budgets to cover what they expect is the shortfall. So with that coverage, we're expecting right now a surplus of
1.9 million being year-end surplus.
at the end of the year. If all vacancies remain the same and overtime remains the same, and we don't have more than what we anticipate in anything else. Things change a lot, but for now, that's where we stand.
Questions?
So I was looking at the Munis.
Yes, that's the report that shows line by object code, what we call it, what the expenditure is. You know, what we budgeted, what we spent, and what's remaining in that account.
Okay, so is this as of
It says, you know, June 30th.
June 30th? Okay.
So that's the numbers are run through mid-year. Or
Yeah, we take those numbers and then we project out, you know, what we think if we keep going the way we're going. Now, tomorrow, if you hire 70 police officers, that'll change.
overtime goes down, salary go up, we got that. But the numbers are through mid-year, through June, so the
Yes,
numbers are
that's
reported.
actual data for the middle of the year and then projection through the end.
Yes.
There are some things that we have no control over, which is like the retirement contribution that the actuary is constantly looking at. Sometimes they withhold more, sometimes they withhold less. So those accounts, that and the medical insurance, we don't make any kind of projection on because we don't have anything to do with those. Usually those end up in the surplus. They usually have a budget more than we use, but that's again out of our control. So I don't ever show that.
Couple of questions regarding a couple of specific things in there. They're less about the dollars, they're more about our accounting philosophy around those. So the salary component, the 5.7 million that were unfortunately favorable to year to date, is that a normal number over the years?
No.
That's abnormally high, abnormally low?
It is abnormally high. I looked, this time last year, we only had like 36 vacancies, so our projection was much less. But at this time, the 70 vacancies, that doubles what we're expecting, because we anticipate not filling them as of today.
Same thing with the vacation payout. You talked about we don't know, therefore we don't normally budget a lot in there, but that's $1 million difference if you look at
Well,
it. So
Yeah,
it seems like that might be a philosophical change when you look at, which is maybe we need to increase our numbers, particularly knowing the age and the experience of our workforce to see if we can a little more.
absolutely. We could always align our budget amount by what we actually spend. But I don't think that would fly next door because we always have salary surplus. They would in turn then say, you're not filling those positions, you should delete them. And we don't want to do that because we anticipate filling those. And then if we have greater payouts or overtime, we use that funding. I know it seems not exactly right, but that is the way the process is. And then the payouts usually are more at the beginning of the year, because usually people will retire in December, payout will hit January. About this time, there's not usually many more retirements at the end of the year, but you know, the more they make, the higher the payout.
Of course. And the last question is, so what was our fuel allocation?
We budgeted 1.5. They're expecting us to spend another $1 million. They gave us $1 million.
They gave us, that was
Yeah.
it, so the additional allocation.
Yeah, they project that on the highest, they do different projections based on the cost of fuel. And based on the highest that they do, fleet management comes up with a projection and they expected we would be.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's okay, I had one
Okay.
question. So if we're looking at where we are to date this year, in some areas, we're drastically under 50%, in some areas, we're drastically over. Is that because we're not spending on a steady pro rata basis, so those variances are expected?
Absolutely, like phones and utilities, those, you know, every month we get a bill for rents, but other things we may not spend till the end of the year. Other items may be budgeted and, you know, purchases may be made January. So there, it just depends on what the audit code is, how to look at it. And
I was noticing tuition reimbursement
Uh-huh.
seems quite low. Is that because our department members aren't taking advantage of?
I would believe so, because we budget 90,000, but there is a per employee max of, I think it's 2,100. It's not a very high amount. So, you know, the ones who do take advantage of it, use it, but maybe they could use more. I don't know, but that is the amount. That's just the amount we've always put in there. We usually spend close to it.
2,100 per year,
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
but it would be per year.
And that may have an IRS amount. I'm not sure why they set that. That's a county government amount of what the most they believe.
That's,
That's not.
that doesn't, it hardly covers a
Yeah.
semester.
So that may be a county, they don't want to reimburse too much so they can share it with more people. Maybe an IRS thing. I don't really know why that's been that amount.
So back to your question, I'm scanning to make sure that I don't overstate this and talking with many of the captains and people like that. Part of the issue we have right now is people don't have time to go to the tuition, right? They don't have time to get online. They don't have time to go to classes. I'm reading the faces right now, but I suspect that's a major piece of it. Probably not all of it.
I wonder.
Yes, sir.
I noticed there's a line that you carry zeros on from your contingency fund.
Oh, because that's an object that just exists. And we used to have, the chief had a contingency fund, we had cash, but since we've moved into the credit card world, just anything that he needs to spend, he can use his credit card. It's charged to what the item is.
So we just keep the line item at zero.
Yeah, it's in the county.
Got it.
uh,
How much credit's on your credit card? Enough to get.
We all would have done
I was going the other way, which is, I was hoping there was enough for 2 buildings in there and 2 precincts and a evidence control building, but maybe not.
Okay, so if you're done with that, I'll move on to the 2023 budget request. Okay, so this year, the budget director gave us directions to present a maintenance budget. All right, he didn't say zero growth, which is usually the buzzword, but he said maintenance growth, and I assume that's because he knows cost of everything is going up, and so we have to budget. And also because there's always things like salary increases. So the budget that we are presenting, which I have submitted in electronic format, was for 177 million. And our last year's, the budget we're working right now is 162 million. So it's a $15 million increase. Really big increase.
9%.
Yeah, I went a little, I took that maintenance word and used it to our benefit to address those shortfalls that we always meet. So in the main categories of salaries and fringes, that increased by about 8 million. That includes any contractual obligations we have for pay increases and the fringe benefits, and also put some money in there because we've started paying shift differential, which was not in the 2022 budget. So that's where the 8 million. The other 7 million that is 7 million of it is in the operating accounts. And the big increases there are in the self-insurance fund. That's all of our liabilities. That went up about $2 million. And then the fuel, based on the fleet management recommendation, I increased that, the fuel and the vehicle maintenance by 3.7 million. That's because they've given them pay increases and parts and everything else that's gone up. So to repair the vehicle, it's costing more. Fuel in them is costing. Then the other 1.5 million are based on what was submitted to me by the commanding officers in their budget request. You know, things that they think they need for largely software maintenance, things like that, technology things that have gone up a lot. So I added those in there. I didn't add any positions. All the positions that we have today are what are in there. This is just the general fund budget. And in addition, I did add 2 CAD positions I haven't added yet. That's part of the 4.2 million we're getting for CAD. So those are in there as well. And I requested funding in the same amount for the vehicles that I have requested in the past, although this year it will only get us 67 vehicles compared to 7 this year. So we're meeting with the budget director on August 18th, and at that time they'll have reviewed everything that I've submitted, and Chief and I and whoever else will go over there and meet with them and determine if it looks good to submit on the times.
Right, it's interesting you mentioned 9.2%. That sounds big or something.
I just said, she said it's big, and it was 9.29%.
I think inflation right now is over 9%. I actually think this is quite conservative.
I hope they think so too.
I'll build on that, Joyce. When the 3 big expenditures that you listed were all 3 dictated either by a collective bargaining agreement or by guidance from the county.
Yeah.
Is that the way we would hear that? So we have less than 1%, and I'm going back to your word maintenance, right? You were told to have a maintenance budget. We have less than 1% increase based on what our leadership team believes they need. Less
Yes.
than 1%.
Yes, it's a very small amount. But we have some discretion to try to find the funding somewhere else or, you know, do without something. But I went ahead and put it in there because it really is not that much in the.
The questions? Joyce, I have one here, and I need to, fortunately, I'll take us back to this year.
Okay.
Sounds funny, right? Back to the future, back to this year. But the non-bargaining unit salaries, so you budgeted the bargaining unit salaries. What about the non-bargaining unit salaries
For this year,
for 2023?
2020, yes, I did put an estimate.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure you talked about bargaining unit. We did mention that, so thank you for clarifying.
Because that will have an impact on there, so I did. put an estimate.
Wonderful. Thank you. Was there an impact on, did we put the 12-hour shifts in there?
Yes,
Okay, so that's part of that salary and fringes that you
Yes.
built in. Perfect. Thank you. Can I go back to anything else on 2023? Go back to 2022 for a moment. The 1.9 million you're forecasting us to be favorable to budget at year end, does that include or exclude the fuel cost? The
that
additional fuel?
excludes it because they're giving us the million short.
Excellent. So that's still kind of a net 1.9
Yes.
million, not,
Yes.
okay.
If
Thank
not,
you.
I would have told you, you know,
Right.
it was a lesser amount if we had to pay for it, which, you know, they asked us if we could find it. And then I think they realized as a county as a whole, every department needed it, so they did just a large, putting all the money in. Yeah.
60 million.
Was it 60 million? Okay, so they divvied that up among all the departments, so that showing shortage.
So this 1.9 that we're projecting, is that based on where we are today?
Yes.
So there could be expenses, like we talked about expenses in the first half of the year. There could also be expenses in the second half of the year.
Absolutely.
That makes,
Absolutely.
okay.
That's just taking what we've had as a picture, thinking that it you know, is half and at the end we'll have that, like the biggest is the salary. So again, if we have an influx of a lot of police officers, that will change, but that should also affect some of the overtime, things like that. So it's not, sure, it's just a projection.
Does the vacation and PTO pay out, does that vest immediately? Like somebody could be here 6 months. And
No.
then they-
No, so a traditional employee, gets half their sick time, right? But all the new employees since 2002 are PTO employees. And they have to serve 1 year of probationary period. If they leave before then, they don't get any payout. And I mean, all the traditional things. And if you retire, you get back your sick. If you don't retire, you don't. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Board, good morning.
Morning.
So we'll start with our quick update on Teneo. I'm going to do a little bit differently. I know that it's going to run down things that have changed in the past month. One of the things we moved from in progress to completed was to revise our policy concerning the use of spike strips, which obviously the chief had a special order a little over a month ago. That portion. 2 of the other general orders on search and seizure and the other on K9 moved to the executive command staff portion. Executive command staff over the next month. Another one that was completed was regarding having the difference between 10 and 12-hour shift type surveys in precincts. We've moved that to completed, but understanding that's ongoing. Surveys we continue to do every 2 to 3 months with the officers, especially on 12-hour shifts. We've done 2 to this point. We did it at the 2-month mark, 5-month mark. So we've moved it to completed. It's something that's going to continue into the future. The one that was listed as not started has now been moved to in progress. And that was a couple of months ago. We discussed the 60-40, 60 per unit. They'll recommend 60% police officers' time in the division control is spent answering calls for service, and then 40% communication. So my bureau has now started to do workload studies on each one of those precincts. So we moved it to in progress to figure out what our manpower number needs to be in each of the precincts to get to exactly. So the first precinct is completed, the 7th precinct was completed yesterday. So we'll move with the rest of the other precincts, and then as a department, we'll have to discuss how we want to view workload studies. City of Fenton, Jennings, City of Wildwood, because their contract dictates states that you're going to have a certain number. So, you know, they'll talk about this.
Knowing that it's extraordinarily preliminary and therefore extraordinarily likely to be inaccurate, do you have any initial assessment after doing the first 2 studies?
So the first precinct I've gone over at extreme length. I believe the first precinct, Captain Cunningham, we have 70 bodies right now. The workload study shows that he needs 80.
What's your full staffing now? Not what you're currently running, what's your full staffing level?
We're doing just study with 12s. 72.
And 72, 73 is what, make this real short, but so we determined what the relief factor would be, obviously per beat, and I think it would be, but regardless, that was at 2.8. The study shows because of the volume of calls that county precincts respond to daily, that's actually ticked up to well over 3. Just to, and again, that's taking everything. You will all get copies of this entire study, but this takes into account not only the calls for service, their downtime, the average amount of time that each officer, countywide and in the precinct, takes off. So, for instance, we were talking about, you know, now here in 2022, we have, I don't even know what the percentages of department employees that are PTO,
Sleep. 75.
easily 75%. So just meeting a guy that gets out of the academy, right off that is education. When you have guys that are 10 to 15 years in the precincts, and they have 6, 7 weeks. So again, those are factors that we have taken. So my analysts have gone in and done a whole algorithm. But yeah, so the first precinct shows they would need about 14 officers again, and that would be to get to that 60.
Have we decided that 60/40 is the correct breakdown?
Not yet, and I don't think we're far enough into the study to determine that yet. Because like we had spoken about, like we can kind of tinker with those numbers, 70, 30. But until we want to see kind of what that bar is,
Commissioner Schwann's question, do we know what it is now? What are we doing, 90-10? Are we doing 95-5? Are we doing 80-20? Are we?
I don't know right off the bat, but I would say that each precinct is completely different.
Very.
Because, you know, yeah, North County, again, I can tell you, you can, all these guys can back me up, that they're not, their officers riding beats don't have the time to, now his neighborhood policing unit, so that's a great time in community engagement, rightfully so. But his beat officers just don't have the time because they clear a call, they're dispatched to them. Just boom, 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 back to back. So, you know, whereas in other precincts, 7, 5, 6, for instance, you know, those guys would have more time to reach out. So,
Yeah, what we heard you just say is it may not be a standard 60-40 across the department. We may have 60-40 in North, and we may have something different in 3 or 6 or 8.
the numbers actually would look better, you would think, in a precinct that's slower. But obviously, in a perfect world, we would want to get North County to that too. So you guys have a little bit. So,
North and Jennings, no doubt. Thank
but,
you. And
yeah, that study's ongoing, and so it takes a little bit of time, obviously, over the past month and a half. And like I said, they completed the first precinct. It's the reports are lengthy, about 15 pages. And the second precinct just got completed. I don't even want to speak to that one yet because
thank you. And I'm going to caution myself out loudly so you hear very preliminary. Don't lock down anything we just talked about because it's highly subject to change. I'm telling myself that, but I'll share it with all of you so you don't do the same, make the same mistake. Thank you.
my long-winded version of that just tells you that that is not in progress. And then finally, for the Division of Operational Support was the legal update on open records, which to make a policy on open records. That has been written, that was sent to stakeholders this morning. County Counselor's Office had that say it's that nature. So they're usually given about 2 weeks to try to get those things back. Deputy Chief to Chief to Executive Committee. And that's the update on today.
It's nice to see the continued progress.
Sure. Right, we can go ahead and move into crimes. All right, we'll start with we always do our notable events. We had spent a little bit of time on citizen incidents. Obviously, that number was stagnant for 3 months. We're at 3, it's now at 5. Internal investigations, the gap continues to close, as we said, for the first time all year. Fortunately, our use of force incidents is now in plus category. So for the previous 5 months, previous 5 board meetings, all of those numbers have been first time now, use of force incidents in June alone, total of 35, pushed us to 147, whereas June of 21, we were at 19. Department vehicle accidents, again, gap is closing. We had 14 in June 22, it's 7 of the year. And the vehicle pursuits is now, again, for the first time, into the positive. June was, as May was. Any questions regarding it? Oh, the failure to yield. Up to 1060 total. I'm beginning to realize too, and I'm gonna try to correct this number, that number is actually gonna be higher than what we've been reporting. Here's why. Violent Crime Initiative, obviously, those are all logged in by dispatchers on calls for service. Obviously, the Violent Crime Initiative does their own thing, and I know that they have failures every single day. So I'm gonna, for the next meeting, I will get their numbers as well. So these are just driven from.
Appreciate you catching that.
For next month, the line item is fine, but can you also break it out by dispatch versus violent crime initiative?
So again, not a whole lot of change here. The heat map shows mostly the same thing that Commissioner Banks would.
I think it's shocking because we hear rightly so the concerns of the community about police pursuits, but if the community really knew how many people didn't stop compared to the number that get pursued, 1,060 versus 22.
And again, and that's why I kind of said, we need to be,
Well said.
it's not about us not trying to be transparent, it's just, it's help take place for that, not including the DCI numbers. And saying, really, if you think about that, and I don't know what, but let's just call it, let's say, 200 of that,
Right.
and still in 22 pursuits.
Incredible.
Again, the first precinct actually, Jennings won the month of June with they had more failure yields in their precinct.
Doesn't sound like a win.
Yeah.
We get your play on words.
I don't think Capitan.
For patrol data, not much change in here. This is almost the same across the board as we saw in May, just 2 extremely busy months for us, this department. They actually had more calls, had about 2,000 or total calls, whether that was radio or self-initiated. The number of reports filed is about 4,200, as you can see there. It's 4,230 last month. So a lot of incidents. Crimes against persons. So, and again, last month we were talking about this, and Commissioner Ashworth had spoken about nationally crime being up. We take pride in that crime is down, but I know it's the chief has told you, or the deputy chief himself, we don't want to pat ourselves on the back too quickly because it seems like the numbers have started to move back towards the center. I just wanted to get you an update. So as you can see, we're 15% down now. So that's investigated by our crimes against persons. In March, so if we looked at this by quarters, January, February, March, we were down 42% in homicides. So now that 2 quarters of the year have been completed, we're now moved to 15%. So again, the gap's closing. You can look at the other major thing on this list that I think the public really cares about is that aggravated assault with firearms. Whereas we're still down 13% overall. In March, we were down 23%. So closing there. Here's the homicides by the numbers, 40 to 34, as you just saw overall in 2021 year to date, 2022. June was the violent month for our crimes against persons unit. They investigated 8 homicides as compared to 3 from June. Obviously, it's closing the gap. When we look at crimes against property, I kind of did the same thing, look back quarterly. And the numbers, again, are moving back that direction. So as you can see now, whereas I told you our use of force are now in the positive, our pursuits were now in the positive, our robberies with firearms is now positive. The entire year it had been negative. In March, it was down 9%. 5.2. Our burglaries in March We're down to 17.9%. We're now statistically even, 26 of these. And our motor vehicle thefts, although has been up all year, which really started in January, February, but the weather, we were +8 in March, and we're now closing in on 18%. So again, the numbers are moving in the wrong direction for us, but obviously picking up more special enforcement. And then the last slide is the crimes against society. The main portion here that I would point out is our weapon violations. Moved from 10% down in March to now 3%. Our DWI is good for the department, continue to go up. Quote 1 in 2021 and 220 year to date. Calls for service, every precinct, I believe, looked at this is about their moving average, was about their moving average in June. Here. Which again, is not some anomaly, obviously, June, July. Self-initiated. Most of the time when your calls for service go up, your self-initiated tends to go down. That's a little bit what we see here in some of the precincts. Some of the precincts still doing a pretty good job at staying over their moving average. North counties are just below it, but again, top calls we still have in there. Sick cases, controls, self-initiated side. And finally, our TSR data, which over the past 6 months hasn't fluctuated too much in any one of the precincts. Do you have any questions regarding any of these?
Yes, but none that you can answer, right? Same stuff that we've had before.
Why? We're looking.
Yeah, we are. How's the leg?
Fantastic.
You have the reputation of having the most colorful hamstring, just so you know.
Yeah. Was
By the way, those of you in the audience, we're not getting personal, just we heard his hamstring was pulled pretty badly and pretty purple.
pride in standing out there for another inning and probably after I saw some of my bosses go down, I felt like that I couldn't.
That's a jump shot. We could have used you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to,
Back it up.
I know we had a lot of discussion about, records. Driven by, Sunshine Law.
Not on the agenda.
That's procedures.
Well, I mean, we don't know yet. We're still debating on whether you've been saved or not, so don't walk away far.
We're just doing, what he's going to talk about is just what he's doing to help that process.
I would suggest that we.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
He paid for that.
Mr. Beckett, you're up, sir.
Morning, members of the board. So I want to start out this morning with an update on some of the things that community engagement is doing, the Bureau of Community Engagement. As some of you attended, the Ball in the Blue was a fun, well-attended event, bringing the city and county together. The chief has directed the academy to institute some new training on how to break the press and how to properly shoot. So
Thank God.
hopefully next year will be a little bit better in that regard. The Bureau is also preparing for an event this fall which is a national event in October called Faith. Essentially, it's a community event bringing the clergy and law enforcement together and in order to build better relationships, not just with the clergy, but with the community also. It was a very small event last year and it's intended to be much bigger. And as I said, it's a national event also. The Knock and Lock in Jennings was postponed because of rain. That reset date will be to be determined. Just as a refresher, that's kind of what it sounds like. Their officers are going door to door and handing out gun locks to citizens that want them. And that's funded through our budget. Schnucks in Westfall Plaza, the old Northland Plaza at West Forest that lives in Hunt, has instituted a drive called Hydrate Our Heroes, and people can donate water products and hydration products for firefighters and police officers. Appreciate that support from Schnucks. And next month, right now the Bureau is working on, as the cadets are under them, they're working on a cadet analysis, and I'll present that next month at the board meeting. With respect to the wellness unit, they're right now going through mentorship program interviews. Very good news to report. It's very refreshing. There's 70 applications so far and more coming in. It's a voluntary program for both commissioned and professional staff. They've had 35 interviews so far, and down to each person, there's an extraordinary level of enthusiasm and support for the mentorship program, and then that carries over to individual employees in the department as a whole.
Carl,
So-
can I interrupt for a minute?
Yes, sir.
70 of our people are applying to be mentors, not 70 of our people have applying for mentors.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Because the concept there is going to be starting out with recruits and following them through until they get into field training. And then initially, when a pre-hire program is initiated, it'll begin at that.
Type of program you two are working on.
So that was very good news. And then through a donation from the Police Foundation for $1,000, we're having 4 officers trained. It's online training in physical training, PT, nutrition, and mental toughness. And those 4 officers then will carry out training and so forth in a type of PT and nutrition mentorship, if you will, to our staff. And the person who's heading that up is Sergeant Eldridge. She's the recruit supervisor. So that'll carry over to our recruits and also carry over to the pre-hire program, because physical training is one of the challenges of our, not just our recruits, but our applicants that are just not physically fit enough to get through our testing. And the HR is implementing roll call visits. So I started yesterday morning in the first precinct and spoke to the midnight shift at 5 a.m. and spoke to the 6 and 7 a.m. roll calls. I talked to about 25 officers. I hit some topics of the day, such as lateral pay, election day, holiday, the parental leave, those type of things, giving them the status of what was going on. And then had a question and answer session. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how engaged they would be or how talkative they would be. And they were talking pages of notes. I think it's going to be a good process. I'm going to go to every work element. It's going to take time. And I'll compile a report to the board then when that's completed. I think it's going to help identify and improve what our culture is, and also will help with succession. We had ideas in all those areas. And community engagement is also hitting roll calls to inform them of what the Bureau actually does. I think there's some confusion or misinformation with respect to what the Bureau can do for the police department, the resources that the officers can rely on from the Bureau. So they're going to be hitting the roll calls too. And then lastly, the recruiters are also hitting the roll calls to explain the selection process, what's involved, reinforce, as we all do, the referral fee, 800 for an inexperienced and 1,000 employee. And again, I'll have a report at the end of that process, and I think we'll start back over again with getting roll calls. It'll be a continuous process. It was very encouraging. So for the staffing report, we have 76 current vacancies. That still remains at the authorized of 973. We have 897 actual commission. As you know, class 205 started in April. They'll graduate in October. There's 5 county officers, 4 municipal, and 1 open enrollment. And then class 206 started June 27th. There's 7 county, 10 municipal, and 1 open enrollment. We will have a January and April 2023 academy class. The professional staff stands at 3 vacancies. It's still 375 authorized, and it's 335 actual professional staff members. For the dispatch academy, class 14 started June 13th. It has 11 recruits in that class. And class PSD class 15 will start August 22nd. As you know, we have 12 openings for every class. We have 2 right now that have filled that, and there's more processed in backgrounds. The security officers is a focus of recruiting. There are 9 down right now. Security is collaborating. Captain Morgan and Colonel Lohr is collaborating with HR on how to recruit, and we're addressing some issues with the selection process to enhance that and get more security officers in. Security is also involved in that. The security officers, the rank and file, they have a monthly meeting, and they're giving recommendations and input on how best to recruit, and they're involved with that. And actually, Recruiter Officer House is doing a live event today on Facebook and other platforms, trying to recruit for security services. That's something that's live, but then it's repeated and posted to social. And we have 3 out right now on COVID that it really just hasn't been an issue. There's a short quarantine period, and thereafter people can come back. They're symptom-free, wear a mask for another 5 days. It really hasn't affected us. Still have 8 out on military separation. Just want to reiterate how much we support our military, our reservists. The applications for June were 19 police officer applications. There are 4 in background and over 40 in testing right now. There were 9 NBQs and 5 voluntary. Tomorrow we do have a final review board for a security officer and also for an experienced officer. And we are seeing more applications coming in regard to experienced officers. Stephen.
I have one question. Would you mind next time giving us an outline of what you're coming for?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good suggestion.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
We have Joe Ryan here to come up and discuss with you about our sports program, the one that's getting hurt. As far as I think of that organization, certain.
As Ryan was catching yesterday, I wonder how she can bend over today.
Slowly, that was a lot of my ibuprofen. I wish Lieutenant Colonel Cox were here to do this because this is really his brainchild. He collected a group of us and we started spitballing about morale, camaraderie. Back when we were young kids here, this really wise family who spent Sundays barbecuing with each other, played together. We babysat for each other. Somewhere along the way, we kind of feel like we've lost a little bit of that. All of those things translate into better work relationships. So, if you know Lieutenant Colonel Cox's story, sports is a big deal to him. He grew up in St. Louis, and that's how his mom kept him out of trouble. So his answer was sports. So he went to the foundation and received funding for the year of intramural sports. It is voluntary. We're doing this in our off-duty time. We started with basketball, and you were at a couple of games. It was the first game, they barely had enough people to play. The ones that didn't were borrowing players from other teams just so they could get their hour in. By the end, there were a few families there, and they had full benches. I was at softball. We started softball a couple weeks ago. I was at softball Thursday night, waiting for my operational support game. And I was watching the Turks play the city. We did give the city a team. And it dawned on me that on the first precinct side of the field, there were clusters of wives, girlfriends, and their kids. And they were chatting. They weren't paying attention to the game. They were chatting. They were playing together. Hopefully building their own support system, right? Who better understands what a police spouse goes through than another people. So hopefully that is an unintended consequence of this. Basketball, we started with 7 teams. We have 11 for softball. Command staff has a team. Is that what we call it? I don't know. We're pretty terrible. Lieutenant Gomez might actually have PTSD from playing. I'm not sure. I think we've only won 1 game.
One was a forfeit.
Good question. I don't know who it's before. But the result of this has been, and I hear it from some of the captains, these guys there's friendly trash talk going on in full house. And sometimes these are folks who've ridden beats next to each other for a year. You don't even know if the guy next to him is married, has kids. Now they're playing together, forming some bonds. Personally, there's a very nice security officer here. I would say good morning, no idea what his name is. He's on the operational support team. I know his name. I know he lives in Illinois. I know he supports children. I know he's never played softball before, and he sent me an email last Thursday's game, and told me what a great time he's having. Terrible at softball, but he's making new friends. So at the end of this, we will go back to the police foundation and we will ask them to continue to support the program. Like I said, we went from 7 teams in basketball to 11 with softball. I'm already getting completed rosters for flag football for the fall. We're trying to throw in like 1-day stuff in between. We have a kickball tournament on Sunday. And in September, we're going to do for folks like onward, we're going to do a cornhole tournament.
I thought you were checkers.
Checkers.
Yeah.
I lose the hip.
So our hope is, and from the feedback that I'm getting, these guys are out there on the field on their own time, starting to make some connections. There are people that I maybe knew their face prior to starting softball. I can now call them by their first name. So, any questions?
Sounds like a great job. Sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a ton of fun. Yes. Band staff limps usually most of Friday. We're not, did I mention we're terrible? We're not very good.
Yeah, you do, but before you do, just hold on a second. Yeah.
Commissioner Ashworth was at the band staff game last night.
So I do have a personal story to relate to what you just said. I think on behalf of all of us and I don't know, 30 people or so yesterday I interacted with, everybody's having a lot of fun, but on our behalf, and Thomasina said it for you, and we know Lieutenant Colonel Cox was kind of the idea behind it, but we both know you both put a lot of effort into this, and we just want to acknowledge it. We want to acknowledge it on behalf of everybody who gets to play or everybody who wants to play. It's desperately needed. You talked about the county and the city getting involved, right? So
Yes. So the city is trying to start a similar program. Like all police departments, they have the same morale issues we do. So I've been providing them with the documents that we create as we move through this, so that they can mirror ours. In the meantime, the foundation has to become a team in each of our leagues. I wasn't 100% sure they were going to be able to come up with one, but they have a softball team. I think they're as bad as the man staff, but we haven't played them yet. Brad, what do you think?
I think they have a team though,
But
right?
they're having a great time.
And we're interacting with them and
Yes,
saying that,
we are.
excellent.
Yes.
And then we had maybe now, Richard, you were to brainstorm behind a little competition between.
So this is a spin-off, like a sequel to intramural sports, Commissioner Banks.
Our Brown versus Blue game, which was held on June 25th. That was Brown versus Blue, Balling in the Lou was our official title. We want to thank Vera Clay for putting together a beautiful flyer for us. We played the county played the city in a basketball game. Really, there were, as Michelle pointed out, same kind of stuff. You want to build relationships, but there was sort of the three goals were first of all, community engagement piece, getting the community involved, and a lot of folks came out, so that was met. We wanted to build a relationship and collaboration with the city, with the Metro PD, which we did. We had a number of meetings. Special thanks again to Michelle, was very instrumental, along with Juan Cox, in working with Major Dace, Sean Dace from the city. We had a ton of meetings with Major Dace. I think built a good relationship with him. In working out, we sort of split the work level, the honor guard he produced for the game. He had a person singing the national anthem at the game. So it was a really good effort between the two departments. Our chiefs were there. I think it was fantastic that Chief Gregory honored retiring Chief Hayden. He and Juan Cox have put together a very nice commemorative box. What do you call those? Shadow box, a shadow box.
Provided by our welfare association.
And it was beautiful. It was very well done. And Chief Gregory presented that to him along with the trophy at the end of the game. On the community piece, we had a 3-point competition that Brandon McQuarrie kind of organized with children, with kids. We had high school kids, girls and boys competing. We had 2 winners. They both got gift cards. I will say that the girl 3-point shooter had the highest total. I think she scored 13, I think it was 13 threes that she shot. And I think they had 45 seconds. So she was actually the best sniper among the participants. But that was a nice piece. We did 3 drawings during the game for gift cards that we gave out to participants. And then the grand prize was one that was donated by all of us, was the Xbox game system, which us are too old to be gamers, but those who are in the gaming world really like that. And that was a big deal. We donated that. We gave it. Colonel Schwerin did the actual drawing of the name. Couldn't draw her own. But the most touching part was the actual winner was an officer. I'll make sure I had her name, Regina Moore, because she was fantastic. Regina Moore won from the city. There was a young man in the audience whose last name was also Moore, who really was trying so hard to win this thing. So she then turned around and gave it to him and said, you know, he really wants this. I'm going to give the game system to him. So it was really a impromptu, very nice moment that she did. And it sort of spoke of how the whole day went. I thank everybody who came out and supported. I know that obviously the chief was there. He sat on a bench next to County Executive Page, who was also there representing. Tracy Panish was instrumental in getting all the guys on morning television that week to talk about the upcoming game. I'm sure I'm missing somebody that I meant to thank, but it was certainly a team effort for everyone. Oh, Jonathan Cunningham, of course, who put our team together. Next year, they're going to work on how to break the press. You don't dribble through a press, got a pass to the press. But anyway, someone forgot to tell the city this was the exhibition game. But we'll be better next year. We want to thank St. Louis U High because they were the ones who donated their wonderful facility. Next year, we hope to do it again next year, and we want to do it in the county so we can be the home team. Maybe that'll help boost us to victory next year. This whole thing was done by private funds. Save a Lot in particular gave us all the food, so we provided lunch for free for anybody who wanted it. Michelle, again, her people were there to grill the dogs and give out hot dogs and chips and water and soft drinks. They were all donated by Save a Lot. Jimmy Williams McDonald's gave us money for the uniforms for both teams. So I think it was a great effort by everybody put together. So I thank everybody who came, and hopefully we accomplish all those things we do in intramurals, and that you build that relationship, because that's when you build the relationships with the city
So
and each other.
last week, Lieutenant Colonel Cox is in Monaco. He reached back to me and the city contacted him and asked if we could do a city county charity softball tournament.
Oh,
There you go.
So
There you go.
I will start working on
Excellent. Excellent. And those are the relationships that, as you pointed out, with our department, we want to build, but also with Metro PD, we build those relationships. And that's how, when we are in crisis, we have the relationships already in place.
Exactly. The hope in all of this is that, that guy over there is not just the guy.
That guy over there.
writing it, his first name, but it's have that bond now. You're becoming more accountable to each other. So.
thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Cox, we just appreciate it greatly, and on behalf of everybody who's limping today or can't bend over, I'll tell you, every one of them to a person had said how much fun they were having.
It's a blast.
Every one of them.
And I have to give John Cunningham, right? He's my sidekick in all this. He let Lieutenant Colonel Cox just.
Yes.
Well, thank you,
It was great.
Jonathan, too. It's great.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. And by the way, as you walk away, just, I'll give you the eyes of an 8-year-old. Wife and I, you're limp, we can see you holding that hammy. On the eyes of an 8-year-old, my wife and I were babysitting our 8-year-old granddaughter yesterday. And we said, well, we're going to go to a softball game. And she wondered, what's softball? And she hadn't played it yet. Why is the ball soft? And she got there, it was hard. And she said, why is this called softball? Balls are. Anyway, on the way, when we parked and we were walking toward the field, she reached over and grabbed my hand. She said, Paul, I'm a little afraid. And I said, what are you afraid of? And she said, well, the police officers that are here. And, Mignon grabbed her other hand and said, they're just people, right? They're just like everyone else. And she said, well, I'm still just a little apprehensive. Big word for an 8-year-old, but
Yeah,
got it. So we get there and the games are staggered. So it was about a half hour before, and the other field ended up early. And we let our granddaughter run around. And the next thing we know, we look down at this other field and she's out on the field playing with one of the officers' sons. And it was just, we just enjoyed it, right? Summer evening, sun setting. It was just a cool view for two grandparents to look over there. So after the games are over, right, we kept extending the game until the command staff could try to win. Didn't quite get there, right? But the net of it was, on the way back, she said, gosh, I had so much fun. She calls us Gigi and Paul. Gigi and Paul, I had so much fun. I met a new friend. And we said, and what about the police officers? We introduced them to several of the police officers. And she said, they're really nice people. And so I share that story. And, it's not just within our efforts that we change attitudes. This little girl now is going to feel a heck of a lot more comfortable about who we are and what we do. So.
I'd like to apologize for any language she might have heard.
So I will share. When I went down to check her and I came back up and I said, so what do you think? And she said, Paul, these people cuss a lot. It was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious.
And I believe everything that Phil said about it. It's just that I think we got to realize, we all realize it. Warren Cox has put a lot of effort. We all know that now. That he put in, And again, it's important that we're just human beings. We take off this uniform, this human being, not the sport. I can interact with people. For them to see us that way makes it better for us.
We don't shoot well, but we are.
I know years ago, we used to have these kind of programs. Games, teams against each other. Here's what we used to have. So you got from that, where we were, it was national police. Be somewhere from the different games. Again, it brought about camaraderie amongst each other. So it's a great deal that this is back. And hopefully.
Thank you all for participating too. We know you're spending your free time, but well done. Thank you.
I can't honor one of the duties with this. Just one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that you watched Page's press conference this morning, talking about the annexation area in Manchester, which is controlled by our Southern Christian, and obviously against the annexation by the city of Manchester. And this morning, Lieutenant Shulman at the town press conference, they cut you guys off or something came on TV. You said you had to say. You said good, but anyway. So obviously his concern is the fact that, you know, if the city of Manchester is satisfied with their police department, I think most cities, that's what they want to see first. They want to be in a safe community. And that was Page's opportunity to at least get the police department out there to express what we have been doing in Manchester. And his officers, precinct have been doing to, you know, make a footprint in that city, which I think they've been doing that great job all year for quite some time. So that was his first comeback. I think he's going to write a letter to the Boundary Commission, his opposition against the annexation. Obviously, we'll do our part as a police department to keep a footprint in that area. If we lose that, that would mean we lose 6 police positions, 6 police officers, and that's our own. If we lose that. So, I think it goes on the ballot.
Thank you
Oh,
for the
yeah.
awareness. Very good. My apologies everyone for taking my coat off. It's just really, really hot. So my apologies. Chief, anything else?
Sir.
Thank you very much. Next topic on the agenda are approval of our minutes from our June 8th meeting. You've had a chance to review those. May I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other conversation around those notes? All in favor of approval? Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved to put into the record. Amy, any incoming communications? Anything else from an outgoing communication standpoint? Very good. Any old business? All right, new business. We have one of the things that we have are, well, one topic we have are 3 contracts, 3 agreements we need to vote on. I'm going to suggest we vote these in 2, given there's only 3 total, because 2 of them are police service agreements and one of them is for the County Municipal Police Academy for professional services. So we'll vote them as the 2 police service agreements and then have a second vote on the CMPA professional services stuff. We're okay with that. The first contract is a police service agreement, full police services between the city of Blackjack and St. Louis County. These services are for a period of contract execution to June 30, it says 2023. Is that correct? 10-year agreement.
23.
Mine says 33.
Yeah, it says 33.
Oh, yes.
That's my question. Is it a 11-year agreement or is it a 1-year agreement? It's a 10-year agreement. Thank you. All right. So 10-year agreement. So June 30, 2033. Initial term, 1-year charge is $873,655.51. The second police service agreement is a contract for full service police services between the city of Valley Park and St. Louis County. Services are for a period of contract execution to June 30, 2033. The initial term is a 1-year charge of $1,714,169.04. Now, I stammered through a couple of that. Did we ultimately get the right information out? All right, so 10-year agreement. All right. Maybe we have a motion to approve these 2 contracts.
Contracts with services to Valley Park and Blackjack.
Thank you. I'd second the motion. Second. All in favor of approval? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations to us and to those two communities. All right, second set of agreements is just the one. It is for a new contract. This is for the CMPA for Optimum Forensic Solutions LLC to provide an instructor to teach a program entitled DSLR Crime Scene Photography on November 21st and 22nd of 2022 at a cost not to exceed $4,000. Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor of approving this contract?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have an additional contract there too. Mr. Becker, are you still in the room? Can you just come up very quickly? Our next topic is the Election Day holiday. Can you talk about the impact of that Election Day on the police force? And the question that we have, and we're going to go ahead and vote on it, is it's already been, I guess, directed and approved.
Approved by the Civil Service Commission, and then Chief is asking for the police department. It is a holiday for the national election, if you will, 22 and 24, 26, and even years, first Tuesday in November. You would ask for a cost. It's an approximation because, as you know, we have floating holidays. So, for example, personnel services or research and analysis, maybe everybody takes advantage of the holiday, but it doesn't require any overtime to cover it. But if you wanted to look at the holiday cost, I think it was $15,000 if you had to put a number on it. I think that figure might even be exaggerated for the reasons I said. It mostly affects patrol because it adds another holiday and therefore fee coverage will be. So I think that's somewhat the purpose behind it, as Dr. Page indicated to the Civil Service Commission, is to encourage voting, support voting, allow people to have the time off to vote.
Thank you for that update. Do we have enough information to vote on this? To approve this today? Do we want to hold it at least for next month until we can do a little bit more to have a greater understanding? What are our feelings?
I don't think we need anyone.
I did have a quick question. I don't know who's the right person to answer. Can we give people time off to vote already?
Well, that's true.
And I'm asking.
We do. I mean, obviously, the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sometimes there's early voting. And the biggest problem is for patrol when you're on a 12-hour shift, obviously. We do give time off for people to vote if they can't otherwise get. So it's accommodated on a person-by-person basis.
So this just codifies it.
Well, it does to the extent it's the even years and it's only, what one might call a major election. So it won't be, I think some people would like the primaries in the April election, but I suppose that the Civil Service Commission and Dr. Page thought it'd be prudent just to start out with even years.
And I believe it's a full day holiday as opposed to time off to vote.
That's correct.
But if we approve this, we're still giving people time off in April. And the primaries
Absolutely.
to vote, we'll just be giving them the whole day for major elections. So if they want to volunteer at polls or something.
And I would imagine it would be treated for many as like a floating holiday.
Enough information to vote? All right, may we have a motion to follow the direction of the Civil Service Commission and County Executive Page to provide our employees with an election day holiday that is the first Tuesday following the first Monday in even years for national elections. That was too much detail. Yes, thank you. Too much detail. My apologies. All right, may we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Anything from a public perspective? Good, thank you. So with that, we will move forward with a motion to hold a closed meeting. The Board of Police Commissioners may vote to go into a closed meeting for legal advice and review of claims and lawsuits involving the police department. Section 610-0101 RSMO and section 114020.11 SLCRO. Discussion of employee and personnel matters, section 610.021.3 and 13 RSMO, sections 114.0201, section 3 and 13 SLCRO, in discussion negotiations with an employee group, section 610.021, 9 RSMO, and section 114.0201, 9 SLCRO. May we have a motion, please?
I move that we go into closed session.
That second, Amy, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwer.
Yes.
Thank you. We're in closed session. Thank you. Back from closed session, Commissioner Banks had to leave for a personal matter, so he will not be here, but we still have a quorum, so we will move forward with that. And our closed session, we did vote to return to open session. It was a roll call vote, and each commissioner voted yes to return to open session. Amy, you have those notes from Commissioner Banks in his role. The second thing we need to do before we adjourn is we need to correct a vote that we had earlier today, and that is the dates on the 2 police service agreements. It is the same correction on both service agreements. The service agreements as read ran through June 30, 2033, which is incorrect. Both service agreements, so the service agreement with Blackjack and the service agreement with Valley Park, terms expire on June 30, 2032. So we're off by a date, so we will revote those. If we may have a motion to correct our vote so that we have the correct vote in place for the actual expiration date of those agreements. The rest of the agreement does not change. First year charges and all that does not change for either one of them.
I move that we approve the revised version.
Description.
Please.
Yeah, the contract agreements for Blackjack
Valley Park
Valley Park.
to read
To
2020,
read
32.
June 30, 2032. Both of those contracts.
Thank you. All in favor of that, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so those agreements are now effectively as they should, as they are in the official contract, just not what we had in front of us. So thank you for letting us know about those corrected dates. Anything else for the day? May we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
During the meeting today.
May we have a second?
Second.
Amy?
Commissioner Ashworth,
Yes.
Commissioner Hassler,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwer.
Yes.
We are adjourned. We will see you next month on the 10th of August.